Hi, welcome to the Libertarian Alternative. My name is Mark Selzer, and the Libertarian Alternative is an educational television show brought to your community by the Libertarian Party. Thanks for watching. Today's guest is Jim Bobka of Downsize Dc. Thanks for coming out today.
I'm glad to be here, Mark.
It's nice to have you. Now, what is Downsize Dc? What do you do there at Downsize Dc?
Well, it's just like our name would suggest. We believe that the federal government should be smaller, dramatically smaller. I would ask anybody listening right now whether or not they believe the government is too big, too small, or just about the right size. And if your answer is that the government is too big or way too big, then Downsize DC is for you. DownsizeDC.org is part of what we do, and we have the Downsize DC Foundation as well. And folks can come to DownsizeDC.org. They can input their address and their contact information, and the system tells them who their representative and two senators are, and allows them to send messages that are current in the news today, issues at all times that are designed to protect civil liberties or reduce taxes or diminish the size, scope, and power of the federal government.
So if you're a liberal that doesn't like Big Brother, or you're a conservative, a small government conservative, someone who are a small businessman who's getting taxed too much, regulated too much, or even a large businessman who's being taxed too much or regulated too much, or just a taxpayer that feels that his last tax bill was a little too high, you might want to go to DownsizeDC.org.
And at DownsizeDC.org, you can send messages on those issues. And we even have some, we have liberals that feel that central power or too much power in a certain set of hands is wrong. They're attracted to what we're doing. We have constitutionalists who are attracted to what we're doing, populists. They come from all across the spectrum. They just agree with us.
Civil libertarians.
Civil libertarians, and a lot of our issues have had to do with civil liberty, free speech type issues.
Now you can also find out, as you said, now that's interesting, you can find out who your congressman and senator are. And can you send them a message through your site?
What our system does allows you to send a personalized message, and we know that those messages are read. We consulted before we built this system with people who had worked on Capitol Hill, and they explained to us that 15 to 30 messages to a congressional office gets that put on the radar screen. They begin producing the letter that they're going to use to respond on that issue, and every morning the congressman or the senator gets a report, and they know what letters were sent out. And so all that matters is that they know that they're hearing from a constituent. Our system takes the contact information that you gave us and then places it on the letter so that they know that they're hearing from a constituent.
My understanding is that stuff does really work if you contact them. I was talking to a homeschooling advocate, and she told me that there was a congressman who was doing something that was going to really restrict homeschooling. And evidently they sent him so many emails and so many faxes and so many phone calls that he actually had to shut his office because they clogged his system completely. His computer was down.
That's our goal on it. With the issues that we're tackling, we're looking every fight that we go into to emerge from it bigger than we were on when we started it. So that someday we have a force that's so large that we can do exactly what you suggested, which is clog the lines. They need to know that their constituents are paying attention. But the thing is that we need to make it simple and easy for constituents to pay attention, and that's what this system allows us to do.
And there's so many people out there that are disenfranchised from the whole system. They vote Republican, they vote Democrat. Nothing really seems to change. Government seems to get bigger and more expensive no matter who's in office. We thought that there was no one that could grow the government worse than Bill Clinton. Then we have George Bush, who has grown the government even more. And in fact, social spending is way up under more than it was under Clinton. And the Congress before, under Clinton, gave him even more in his budget than he wanted. And so it seemed that the Democrats were actually the ones that were holding back the spending, which is a very odd position because it used to be the other way around. It used to be the Republicans that are holding back the spending. Now it seems that nobody's holding back the spending.
Yeah, at DownsizeDC.org, we've taken a nonpartisan position. We're not favoring Republicans or Democrats. The Democrats have a reputation, as you say, for tax and spend. Republicans have a reputation now for borrow and spend. And so we've identified the core issue as being the spending. It's what they do with the money. We want to begin to address the spending so that we can have a smaller government, we can have lower taxes, and we can have more individual liberty.
And by the way, we're here at the San Diego convention in California. The San Diego Libertarian Party is one of the most active parties and most populist parties in the United States for the Libertarian Party. and we're here at their convention. So what else can you do on this website? Is there a newsletter?
Yes. When someone comes in and they've registered, and we give them the option to just use the system one time, but we also give them the option to register their information with us, and then they can come back, and it's as simple as putting in a password, and they can send messages over and over and over again. Our system allows them to send messages to both their representative and their senators simultaneously. It goes to a form on each of their websites. We don't send email. We actually go and fill out a form on the website for them, and then they come on our email list. They begin getting our Downsizer dispatch, where they can find out what's going on. So we keep them up to speed. We let them know what issues going on right now, what's about to come up for a vote, and what's really important at that moment to us as DC downsizers. Each time, hopefully harnessing more and more support. We have, in the last 18 months, generated over 210,000 messages. We have over 10,000 people registered to use the system, and almost all of that's been done by word of mouth. What's going to be different about 2006 is we're going to begin doing a lot of proactive marketing to attract more people to the site, and that's the real power. You can send a message, but if you send a message all by yourself, you may be doing it in isolation, but the knowledge that you're going to be joined by literally thousands of other people in sending a message is an empowering thing, and it is a thing that draws people together and obviously increases the effectiveness of the message.
Have you had any successes so far? What have you been doing there besides just doing the newsletter? Is there a thrust that you have, a project that you're working on at this point?
Well, our signature issue is the Read the Bills Act. And the Read the Bills Act is a very simple proposal. We actually have the novel idea that Congress should be responsible for reading the legislation it passes. Many of the folks, Mark, that are in Congress are attorneys. And so they know full well what power of attorney means. They know that when you have power of attorney, you have a responsibility not only to read everything that you sign on behalf of a client, but the responsibility to understand everything that you've read. Now, we thought about having a Read the Bills Act that required comprehension of what they were actually reading. We were going to name it the No Senator Left Behind Act, but we decided that was asking too much. We just needed to start at step one, which is actually getting them to read the laws that they pass. And so we have a provision that they actually have to, the bill will be read out loud to 50% plus one of the members of the House and the Senate before they can take a vote on it. I mean, literally read out loud to them. And those that can't attend the reading will also join them by signing an affidavit saying that they've read the bill, and that will give them an opportunity to actually be familiar with the contents of the bill. We proposed this idea because we believed that they pass volumes. It's not we believe; it's a fact. They pass volumes and volumes of legislation, and there's no way they could have read it all. And that's where they stuff all the earmarks. You know, your audience would know that better as pork.
All the pork.
That's exactly right. And what we're doing now is trying to give people an opportunity to trim that process. I suspect if they have to sit through the reading of all these bills, they're going to want these bills to be dramatically shorter.
Right.
Which means they won't be spending as much money. The second thing we could require in this bill is a 7-day waiting period. Congress has a 7-day waiting period for us to cool off before we buy firearms. We're suggesting exactly the same thing. Before they pass legislation, they too should cool off. And during those 7 days that they post that bill on the internet so that the public can interact with the talk show hosts like yourself or watchdog groups, would have a chance to disseminate what's going on right before the issue would come up for a vote. We call this the Read the Bills Act, and all the contents of it, the bill itself and what it will do, are both available at downsizedc.org.
So will you be putting up the bills or attempting to put up bills that are going to be passed or preparing to be passed by the Congress and the Senate at Downsize DC?
Yeah, and you know, the question I frequently get, I mean, we want to obviously change the playing field. We want to change the way the way Congress does business. Because even if we elected a Congress full of people with a desire, a zeal to reduce the size, scope, and power of the federal government, the way the rules are set up right now, it would be almost automatic. The government would continue to grow. So we need to change the playing field, and we're going to continue to do this. Now, the question I frequently get, Mark, is that people want to know, well, how are we possibly going to get this passed? This seems like it's a Herculean or even impossible task. It's maybe too Pollyanna or idealist. We're going to do it because we're going to do what you spoke of earlier with the homeschooling story. We're going to clog all their channels of communication. We want to have